Hey everyone, I'm Michelle Navedo, and this is the Friday 420. Joining me today is John Bays, aka Green Bodhi, a renowned cannabis breeder with over 2 decades as founder and owner of Green Bodhi Genetics in Eugene, Oregon. John has built a reputation for creating some of the highest quality strains in the industry based on a massive library of old school and classic genetics. His work is heavily influenced by the Buddhist principles that guide his intentional horticulture philosophy. John, welcome.
Thank you very much. I'm pleasure to be here and
Happy to have
excited
you.
to jump in here.
Yeah. Um, so yeah, let's jump in. Your company, Green Bodhi, has a philosophy that blends organic growing with spiritual awareness. Could you explain the concept behind your intentional horticulture ethos and how it influences your work?
Well, basically, you know, through my own life experience, I noticed that like everything done with an altruistic intention or an intention to help another being um, promotes happiness, right? So also promotes a different type of awareness in my own mind. And basically delineates the ego and my own self grasping in a certain way. So, just through my own life experience, I saw that pretty clearly through Buddhist practices. And so, entangling that information on a general level um, into first off cultivation with a wisdom plant, cannabis, obviously, how it's basically enticed pretty much the whole planet. So it has some very deep, esoteric, and ethnogenic attraction to the human being and other animals too. But as humans right now, it's pretty much hypnotized the whole world. Whether it be CBD, CBG, THC, endocannabinoid system, healing cancers, all these different things. So, as anything, if you want to do something in a very refined manner, you'd first try to locate all the causes and conditions to make it the best you can. For us, really, it's just doing everything with a altruistic intention and with a refined action based in certain wisdom aspects of learning through life experience that, if we do things in the most heightened, the most um, efficient and most logical manner, and then you imbue an intentional base of compassion into that, that's going to be better. And very simply, just like how our grandmother makes us food, might not be, Michelin star, 5 star kind of thing, but that feeling that we're going to get is going to feel better than if we were at a Michelin star restaurant, just based off of her love for us. And I think everyone in the world has experienced some kind of range of that from a loved one or for someone close. So for us, really, it's about utilizing all these refined practices of mindfulness, uh, altruistic mindsets, and entangling that into cultivation. Because really, if you can do it in cultivation, and we're trying to make this plant the best we can for either ourselves or other people. But a lot of times with cannabis, it's a self-discovery first, right? So it's like you're attracted to this thing, it makes you feel better, so you want to do it the best you can, just because that's kind of the nature of things, of humans, of beings, for in turn to receive that benefit and also offer that benefit to others. So that kind of is the basis on a very general level of intentional horticulture. But as we get deeper into mindfulness practice, meditation, these type of practical methodologies to where we can advance our experience here on earth, you realize that everything has that mirror like perspective. So if we can do it with this cannabis plant that we're so attracted and enticed by and do it the best we can, well, can't we take that information and put it on every aspect of our life and do everything in that way? So that's really the essence of intentional horticulture, is using these kind of refined practices of mindfulness and self-awareness and self-discovery through like refined ancient practices that have been tested rigorously, debated on rigorously, and we combine all that to basically evolve ourselves, evolve our relationship with medicine, evolve our relationship with other beings, whether it be on a microbial level to you know macro level. It's really kind of all the same. So that's the base at core.
I like the analogy to cooking. Certainly, when you have somebody cooking with care and intention and love for you, you taste it in the food, right? You can feel it almost in the food. On the opposite side, when you have somebody just throwing some, whatever food out for you, you get a sense too of the care that was put into it. So it's the philosophy seems to be, the care that you put in and the intention that you put in, you get back. Yeah.
Well, just like with anything, what we put out comes back.
Mm.
And it people don't see that sometimes on a more reactive level, but it's there. You can just see it basically on when you go into the gas station attendant or clerk at the store or whatever. When you're nice to them, when you have a good vibe, when you have a good look, when you're you know truly kind. You don't have to be nice and just fake, but truly kind in the way that they'll feel it, and then they'll be happier, and they'll reflect that back, and you can see that very quick in a human response or animal response level. If you're pissed off, your dog's bummed out. If you're happy, your dog's happy. If you're a happy person, dogs and other animals and kids and adults will gravitate towards you in a way that's natural. If you're pissed off, they don't, and they'll repel them just on that level. So I mean, and then if you talk about all the subtleties of that, whether how we express our nature to the whole world. I mean, we're connected to the whole world through every breath. We're breathing in argon molecules from you know infinite amount of beings that have walked this earth before us. So if we can take in an argon molecule that was in Jesus's lung or the Buddha's lung, actually in almost every breath, then shouldn't we be aware of that on what we're putting out into the world with every breath? So there's a subtle way of looking at it, which is usually more for a kind of practitioner mind, mindfulness practitioner of whatever religious or philosophical set that you're attracted to or that you feel works for you. But that expression into the you know environment and atmosphere and ethos of reality. I mean, we're all working like a giant biome here on Earth. If you were to look at the way the Earth works and how it looks, and if you were to take a cell, even on the most small level, you can see there's a lot of similarities. So then when you expand out and get, it looks so much the same. So if we think that and act that way, it just seems like that our reflection into the world will be much better, and then what comes back will also in turn be much better.
Yeah, I feel like the plants in that instance become a reflection of ourselves and where we're at.
Well, with cannabis, we know that. I mean, pretty clearly that it's gonna show you what you give it, and it's very reactive. A lot of people cultivate in a kind of reactive fashion instead of a predictive fashion, and they're trying to fix problems instead of just prevent them. Um, with organics, it's more of predictive cultivation. With salt or conventionals, it can be more reactive. But with organics, it's not like that. So you have to understand the way the biome works, the way everything metabolizes, the way everything breaks down, how like fungi and, like microorganisms work together, how everything, you know, creates a harmony when everything's working properly. And that, philosophy or ideology also works inside of us. So if we're harmonious, and working with a plant that reflects that, then we can see this experience happen that becomes quite inclusive, quite special. And being able to see those subtleties are also things that kind of the intentional horticultural aspect of what we're bringing gets you to see, because you have to see those subtleties in your own mind, and then you can see the reflection of those subtleties in your environment. And if you can be mindful of all those things, it really is a special practice, of your daily life. I call it intentional horticulture, but it's just a aware, mindful living in all your actions and all your thoughts and all your intentions. But, first, basing the intention altruistically of why are we doing all this? Why are we living here on this earth? Why are we working with this special plant? Why are we working with other beings? Well, it, for some of us, it's bodhicitta, or the altruistic mind that wishes to achieve the highest states of enlightenment or awareness for the sake of other beings, you know? And once you've locked in that intention into your life and into your experience, I mean, then isn't every moment, every breath, every thought can be analyzed and entangled to that intention, to where our whole expression becomes that compassionate walk.
Mm.
And I think the plant is one of the what do you call it, the conduits with that, like kind of delivery mechanism almost,
Mm.
a server.
It certainly allows us a chance to be mindful in the garden. Yeah, as you mentioned that a commitment to organic practices. I was wondering if you could tell us what this entails for Green Bodhi, and what the key difference you see is in the final product in terms of quality and effect.
Well, my own experience, you know quality and effect, it's, you know I only smoke my herb. I only consume, what I grow, because I know what it is. I know what went into it. I know who did it. And the relation and the feedback loop that's created, it's very obvious to me. Um, and I hope that, people cultivating that will also like become obvious to them too. But that reflection is something that's, I think, quite special with this plant, quite quick, quite responsive. And so if we really are able to work in that kind of modality of mindfulness, just what it brings is something more special, I believe, through organics. The complexity, the diversity, in classic, like, conventional cultivation, you're generally using a few salts, whether it be the highest grade pharmaceutical salts, even, there's still those compounds. So it's a very strict line there. So then the plant isn't going to be able to have as much diversity and complexity, because the nutrient base, not to say it's not, I mean, some sterile to some degree, but very, you know, slim
Mm.
and very narrow in the basically, from the lack of biome or complex biome, the lack of fungi or complex fungi,
Narrow in effect, you're
the
saying.
lack of enzymatic response and relation, and
Mm.
metabolites that are there for the plant. It might get what it needs to live and to make a product, but um, it's going to get something that matches the rest of the world. Is it going to get something that mirrors how nature is?
Mm.
Not from my perspective. So, when a wine, old school, you know, wine guy comes and, tries to, viticulturist, whatever, tries to find the best soil to grow the grapes, you know, these guys aren't doing, they are now massive soil analysis and all that. But back in the day, they'd take the dirt, they'd do this, they'd even eat it, they'd put it in their mouth, you know, they'd smell, it'd be like fucking all up in it. Why are they doing that if the complexity doesn't matter,
Hmm.
you know? And why are these old school masters revered and flown all over the world to do this if it doesn't matter, you know? Otherwise, everyone would just be growing conventional grapes everywhere, and make the terroir wouldn't matter, the soil composition wouldn't matter, none of that would matter. But to do the best, it matters. Even if you look at like high level alcohol, a lot of their grains are salmon safe grains on the high level stuff. So that's like beyond organic, actually. No sprays, no nutrients, usually dry farmed, Um, so that's like, that's, that's kind of a sign for us. If the highest level booze is grown salmon safe, a lot of it, then what, that means nothing?
Hmm.
If the biggest oligarch, money families in the United States do it that way, like even the Bush family, they don't eat out. They have their free range cows and their organic garden and their organic greenhouses that they all feed the family off of. They ain't eating it from Kroger or Albertsons. They're eating their own stuff that they grow. So what, one of the biggest like war families in history, like, does it organic and like heady when they consume?
John, I wanted to talk about your breeding work briefly. Um, you've been at this for a long time, Green Bodhi for over 20 years now. Can you tell me how your breeding focus has changed over that time?
Honestly, it hasn't changed
Mm.
that much. Like, um, Dale, she was the chancellor of Oaksterdam, and she still might be, I'm not sure, but she wanted me to teach advanced genetics there in like 2011, and I'm like, what are you talking about? I'm not a geneticist, I'm not even a genetics guy. I just make what I enjoy.
Yeah.
And, for me, my own bioassay or whatever, I have a very, high tolerance, and I have an experience with the plant that's, you know, kind of rare because I've been here in Eugene. I was here when I was a kid, here when I graduated high school, moved away a little bit, came back when I was 24, and so now I'm 50. So I've been here a minute doing the thing for the whole time, basically. And this last, 2.5 decades cultivating here. And Eugene's a very special place, has a very special historical value in cannabis culture. Snodgrass families here. He's basically the grand poobah of glass blowing. So all the kids would come here and learn from him from all over the nation. And then they'd have these Snodgrass Bob Batcham parties, 420 parties, where all the kids would come before they'd go on tour and stock up whatever glass and plant and fungi and molecules they needed to go out on tour and make their way through Dead Lot or through Fish Lot or through Panic or through whatever festivals. And so it kind of, and obviously the Kesey family, they're up here, pranksters, all the, it has a very special thing. Oregon Country Fair, been going since what, late 60s, early 70s, I don't remember, but used to be the Grateful Dead. It was the main band, and the Hells Angels were security, so it's like we kind of have a unique lore here. So really, I just got lucky on my location. We had amazing genetics here, top of the top of the West Coast, a cultivation culture that was, mainly indoor here because of the way that Lane County worked and the politics here and how they allowed certain things. So it basically offered this, you know, collective of genetics and skills that were unique to this hippie culture and this style of community that there wasn't one happening in the late 90s, early 2000s like this one.
Yeah.
But even the Oakland, Haight-Ashbury area or in San Francisco and, the Oakland Hills and all that, it was, people were doing it, but the culture wasn't like it was a different culture. The hippie psychedelic culture was definitely popping down there, but it wasn't known for what we were known for. It had a different thing going. Same with LA, different styles.
Yeah, I've noticed that about your reading. So it's very West Coast, old school genetics focused. Um, and it hasn't, to your credit, it hasn't really changed with like fads and things like that, going for the candy gas or whatever the new fad is, you're very steadfast in your production and the new crosses that you come up with.
OG Kush, sours, cams,
Yeah,
that stuff like that.
all the good stuff.
So, I mean, and obviously haze hybrids and things like that too, but
Yeah,
gotta keep it to what I like. And that's the thing is I like the way the feelings of these genetics make me feel. I don't the candy gas stuff doesn't give me the high I'm looking for. I'm not looking for a subdued kind of down kind of thing. I'm looking for a very cerebral, euphoric, uplifting, stimulating, you know. I mean, the high that a lot of people get anxiety off of.
mm,
I
yeah,
like that type of high because that's the way my chemistry is. And so that's what really, I don't feel like breeding is necessarily as much breeding as it is more selection in cannabis. Like
personalized selection.
yeah, everyone can get whatever genetics and make whatever they want. It's just how do you select though?
Mm,
Do you select with, you know, for culture, or do you select for effect? Do you select for money?
mm,
So for me, I'm selecting solely to try to find that plant that as you're first striking the bong or whatever, as the first
mm,
part of the inhalation comes in, you're starting to get satisfied and feel that feeling that's very special. And if I can't feel that, it's not a winner, you know?
yeah, you can
I
feel
won't
it
keep
during
it.
that first experience with it as it's
And that's
happening.
and
Yeah.
that's why a lot of these old school genetics have stood the test of time because they have that.
Mm,
OG Kush, Chem Dog, Sour D, Silver Haze, these kind of strains that are very classic. They're classic for a reason.
what would you say the top three traits that you're breeding for are?
Um, Morphology, low, obviously the classics of, smell and taste, those, and strength. Those are like, because for me, if it's like under 20%, a lot of times it doesn't do what I want it to. So a lot of what I select, I notice is in between 20 and 25%. That's my natural selection. What I'm choosing once it tests out, that's where they kind of land in that range, mid 20s, mid to low 20s is ideal. But low, low leaf to flower ratio. So and basically the structure of the plant. So, I like the kind of, noble first style look, nice. I don't top plants, I don't super crop.
Mm,
So I'm growing for that cola and the, you know, three pairs of secondaries below the cola. That's my favorite zone. Really, the cola isn't my favorite part of the plant. My favorite part of the plant is those next two pairs of secondaries.
mm.
Those are in my eyes, the gem of the plant.
Yeah. Yeah, well, Acola is up at the top in a very special zone, but those guys are down right in the sweet spot, right?
I mean, plant seems to like that. So
Yeah. So if I understand, you're breeding for structure, flavor, and effect.
yeah, but more it would probably be effect, flavor, structure, I guess.
Mm.
I
I'm
mean,
intrigued.
those three are just together.
Yeah, yeah,
Kind of hard to separate those,
yeah.
to be honest.
I wanted to say your Hazy Kush is one of my favorite strains. I tried it like for the first time like 10 years ago, and I finally got my hands on some seeds, and I'm growing some right now. And I was wondering if you could share the story behind the Hazy Kush. What were the parents, and what were the characteristics that you were looking for?
Basically, I got the OG Kush Sage from TH seeds. My friend got some for me just randomly, but not randomly. I wanted it, but he got them for me without me knowing, and gave me the seeds. And for obvious reasons, this sage is just a classic, and OG Kush, another classic. So I put that to this strain we had around Eugene called the Dawn, which was train wrecked by Purple Affy. So it was very cracked out, very Eugene local strain. So I put this OG Kush sage to that. And then I got a male of that and put it by a bunch of things, the golden pineapple being one of them. Um, and everything that came out of that was just insane. And the reason I put that Dawn in there is because it's a Eugene strain and it would lock it in genetically that anything after the fact was from here. Um, you know, my own mental thing, but like not that anyone cares about that or not, but it's just in there like that.
Yeah, kind of a watermark.
Yeah, and so like everything that came out of that, Hazy Kush being one of them, was insane. There was even better ones, but we lost them. One was called the Oregon Peach, and it was basically like the Hazy Kush, but a little more, full and stacked, and smelled like peach Jolly Ranchers. So, but the person that was, we were re-vegging the mother out, and the person that was taking care of my grow at that time let that veg room get a little too warm, and it killed the re-veg. So no big deal. That's life.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, that was the kind of formulation of that, and then it just happened to be such a hit. Hazy Kush was probably, uh, I don't know if I've had a strain that stuck around longer in my jars all the time because of the way the effect was. It was, I mean, if you're depressed, it'll make you feel depressed, like big time. But if you're in a good mood, it'll make you euphoric. But it'll put a damper on your night if you're not ready for a certain style of high. Um, so, I've talked many people off a cliff with that one for sure. We even did a show with this one cat, Gift of Gab, once. He was a very, he passed away, but very skilled hip hop person. And Black Alicious was the band that he was in, and we did a show with him on New Year's one night. And he opened for my friend, and he come off stage really quick, and he was like, because my friend was like, "Oh, I gave Gab a nug off your jar, out of your jar. I hope that's cool." I said, "It wasn't the big one on the top, was it?" He's all, "Yeah, it was that one." I was like, "Dude, that was Hazy Kush, bro." He's all like, "Oh fuck," because my friend that at the time that did that, Hazy Kush used to spin him.
Yeah.
And I'm not kidding. Gab come off stage after like 30 minutes of performing, just like it was done, on New Year's Eve. And he comes walking down, he's all, "Oh, my back, I hurt my back." I was like, "Really?" He's all, how'd I sound? I was like, "You sounded great. Are you sure?" I was like, "Is your back hurt or is your like something else hurt, bro? What's up?" So we had to go into, I talked him down for about 45 minutes and did some meditation with him. And then at New Year's, he went out on stage with my friend and they crushed it. But, it'll put a damper in someone's night. Or if you like that kind of thing, it'll get you to realize some stuff.
Yeah, I've loved it in every circumstance. It's one of my favorites, man. You mentioned that your Tenzin Kush is one of your favorites, and I wanted to ask what makes that one special for you.
Well, the Sour OG, which is the Hells Angels OG by Sour Diesel IBL from Mamiko Seeds. I remember I got that clone from a friend, and I was looking, and he had probably 300 plants. I saw this one little clone, and it was like calling out to me. I was like, "What's that, bro?" "Oh, it's HAOG by Sour Diesel IBL from Mamiko. I said, "What's up with it?" He's all, "Oh, you can have it for $100 if you want it." I said, "All right." And it became pretty much my favorite sour. So even at that level of a clone, I could tell it had some special essence, for me.
It was calling to you.
Then my friend Andrew Puffin, he gave me the 78 Affy pollen, and I put it by the sour OG, and every single pheno that came out of that was insane. The Tenzin Kush number 2, that one is the most homozygous plant on the Phylos galaxy. And the Tenzin Kush 4, is its sister, and it's pretty much the most designer looking plant you can imagine. Purple, silvery. The smell is like incense with rose and pine and super fuel. It's a very cool strain. But it caught the name because me and my brother, we were on retreat at the monastery, and so we're still acting like kids and taking bong hits in the bathroom during teachings and blowing it out the the fan vent. Anyway, so kusho means teacher. Kushala means respected teacher, right? Tenzin is actually the name that the Dalai Lama gives anyone that, it's like the family surname. If he names you, like he named my son Tenzin Jangju, because his name's Bodhi. Jangju means Bodhi in Tibetan. Tenzin means protector of Dharma. And so we're sitting in there, and, you know, um, and I was like, bro, we should, it's like, because we were talking about the Kusho and, like my teacher and all this different thing. I was like, we should name this Tenzin Kush. As we're sitting in the bathroom there and like, winter retreat. And so the name stuck.
Very cool.
So that's where it came from. So we're, you know, being kids but adults and, you know, doing kid stuff, but as adults.
I want to ask you also, John, what are some upcoming seed releases that you're excited about?
Well, I reversed that sour OG, so I have a full fem line with that sour OG, and crossed it by the fuels, the OGs, the chems, the sours. That right now I have. I've also reversed the sour best shit ever by 89NL5, and through that by a bunch of things. So pretty excited about that. And those are pretty private releases right now. They're just through my email, greenbodhi@gmail.com. But we'll probably release them on the website too, gbgenetics.com or greenbodhi.org. Those are my two. The gbgenetics.com is my seed site. Greenbodhi.org is just my general site. But, really anyone can always contact me through email at greenbodhi@gmail.com. And really, I answer every email. It's me personally. And I'll sell you seeds, shirts, whatever, man, through that. And that's where you're going to get the first hit at the unreleased stuff, is just hit me up personally. But those are my two things I'm pretty excited about. All the testing of the sour OG line has just been insane. Just massive amounts of chem, fuel, gas, like the real stuff the oldsters know as gas, not this kid term they call this purple candy stuff gas. That's just doesn't have any gas in it.
So it's a sour OG line, and what was the other?
The sour best shit ever by 89NL, call it OG Lights or Northern Lights OG. That's we reversed that because out of the 89NL line, that one was very special and super fuely and gassy and just rank old grandpa halitosis kind of vibes. The stinkier the better.
That's great. We have just a little bit more time, so I have a couple more questions for you, and these are kind of more for the viewers that are watching or listening. After all the years of hard work with building Green Bodhi, what is your personal and your professional goal for Green Bodhi in the next chapter?
I guess goals are kind of hard for me because I don't have too many goals. I'm just trying to live in the moment and surf the wave of life, really.
What's the next chapter for Green Bodhi? And
we got some things coming up that we're really excited about. We got a project in Malta. The Maltese project is going to be really cool. We're doing a Green Bodhi club there. organic grow. We're going to be offering retreats for probably 4 retreats a year around the solstices and the equinoxes. There's some very special ruins there in Malta that predate the Giza pyramids. They're associated to the solstices and equinoxes and lined up for that. So we'll be doing meditation practice and teachings there on those days. But then we'll also be teaching intentional horticulture, organic cultivation, Mediterranean style living. Just classic health stuff, men's health stuff, human health stuff. Kind of share our experience of how we got to where we're at, whether it be through health, whether it be through medicine, whether it be through mindfulness, meditation practices, things like that, and kind of share, our journey and share our methods with people. So that's something that we got looking forward to. Quite a few things in the U.S. still, but really, here just focused on genetics and offering. We have all our library and meristem tissue culture, so everything's. I mean, what was really cool about it is we're really, weird about hop latent and stuff like that, testing and keeping clean all our mothers. So no seed has this issue, even though people don't do that, we do it, and we take it very seriously. And it was really cool when we loaded up everything into meristem. Not one of our cultivars came with hop, which is pretty rare when you have 100 different strains that you've collected for 25 years, that not one of them have hop latent when you run it into meristem, So the cleanup was a lot easier, obviously, because they don't have to do extra cleanups. They can just run it through the meristem process since you're not infected to begin with,
So over
So that's
100 varieties that you've worked on over the last 20 something years.
collected, whether it be elite strains, whether it be my own things I've created, whether it be just, you name it.
And are the seeds are you going to be able to release the seeds into EU, into
Yeah,
European Union? Yeah.
for sure.
So that's an exciting new chapter for
I
both.
mean, that is the new chapter, It's the US is kind of stale right now, as we all notice, It's not a, and the cool thing about Europe is they're into the things that, they're not into rapper and celebrity herb.
Yeah.
They're into culture, they're into the ones that created certain things, the ones that have a message that can help, not some superficial, drama that they've just marketed towards, So the EU is not so into that, but they are into the essence of, things like we bring. So we're excited about that.
Yeah, that's what I've heard. That's very exciting. Very exciting. Final question for you, John. A bit of advice for the folks who are watching. I've tried your herb, and you are a world-class grower. What is the most valuable piece of advice you can give to a home grower who's trying to elevate their quality?
Keep it really simple. There's no need for bottles, So with castings, compost, some dry nutrients, some micronized other dry products, you should be able to get everything you need without a bottle. You should be able to do it in a way that's, simple and easy. If it's not, it's probably not the proper method, in my opinion. Obviously don't overwater, don't underwater. The classics, Let the plant do its thing. The plant knows best, and it'll show you. But if you keep it simple, I think that's the key. At least from my perspective,
Yeah, simple and mindful.
Just like anything, it's like you can put more spices in your chili, but it doesn't mean it's going to make it better.
Excellent words of wisdom. Well, thank you so much, John. That's all the time that we have today. My guest, John Bays of Green Bodhi. I'm Michelle Nevedo. Thanks for being with us, John.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure. Really excited.
Thanks, everyone. Until next time.